Hey everyone, my name is Clover and today we're starting off with a brand new series called the Everything Guide. The point of this series is to inform you guys as players stats, playstyle, counters, and everything in between about a hero in a somewhat crash course format. This time we're looking at ball. So without further ado, let's pile drive right into it. Before I do anything, it's important that I get through the stats and abilities. The first one we're going to be looking at is the grapple. This is the most versatile ability in your kit as it is your primary movement for setting up, disruption, retreating, and other techs like the Toronto kick and multi-boops. The quirk with it is that if you move closer to where you're grappled, it will shorten the length of the rope down to a minimum of 6 meters. To be able to boop someone, you need to reach fireball speed. This can only be achieved by using your grapple and rolling until you reach the threshold of 15 meters per second. Fireball lasts 1.5 seconds unless you meet an imposing force from like walls, other CC abilities, making too sharp of turns, or going into crab form by pressing your primary fire or the roll button. One trick to extend fireball speed is to spam jump out of fireball, which will continue your momentum over a longer distance, a super helpful mechanic when trying to recontest a point or regroup faster from spawn. Adaptive shields is what enables your playstyle. The reason adaptive shields is so great is because it doesn't give the enemy ult charge, making it the only ability to do so. How it works is dependent on the amount of players near you. At its base, it gives you 100 temporary shields, and will add 75 more shields for every enemy player near you. The one limitation to consider is that it is blocked by LOS, so any wall, object, or shield between you and the enemy will not give you that extra 75 health. At the higher ranks, going for a big slam without your shields or getting them blocked by a Ryan shield or Winston bubble, which actually is kind of common, it will make the difference in you either living or getting blown up. The pile driver ability is the most powerful part of Wrecking Ball's kit. With the potential of dealing a quick burst of 100 area damage, also good for generating ult charge, and setting up with your teammates with the knock-up effect, it's kind of insane. If you want to know a couple tricks, the slam can be used when above jumping height, right? So if you notice ledges you can roll off of or objects to jump on, you can probably slam from there. Also, pile drive has a slight horizontal and vertical component when cast, which allows you to do a thing I like to call the high jump. Quick montage to show its use. Minefield. Ball's ultimate ability deploys an area of mines that deal 130 damage if the enemy wants to get a little friendly with it. In almost every case, the mines are used to split members of the enemy team, but it can be used to burst enemies down if placed on top of an enemy's head, comboed with the knock-up effect from the pile driver. Each mine has an HP pool of 50 health, which some abilities can wipe out a cluster of them, so pay attention to that. The last thing I want to talk about is Hammond's primary fire. The basics is that it doesn't do a whole lot of damage, while in game at least. It's kind of closer to Sombra as comparison, or even Tracer to an extent, meaning Ball should throw some punches in between firing to deal more damage over time. But what I actually wanted to focus on is the reload, which takes 2 seconds to perform and can be done in both transformations. The catch is that he can't do both. Switching between the two forms restarts the reload timer, and so you'll find that his reloading time might screw you. So if you pay attention to your ammo and wait till it's at 80, you'll be good to go. It's more of a get a feel for it part of Hammond's kit because it does suck going for a 1v1 realizing you have no ammo. This will be the meat of the video, and it's one that I'll split into 4 parts: scouting, setup, engages, and a short segment on specific cases. So starting off with scouting, in true Ball form, you have the ability to third-person peek around walls, which is important because it enables you to see where the enemy is positioning, to then call it to your team, or pick the best targets, all while being sneaky and safe behind cover. Literally no other hero besides Brig and Ryan can do this, which means you can see if your flank is going to be checked by like a Reaper or Tracer, or get the jump on a Lonely Zen for an easy pickoff. I should emphasize that scouting is about gaining information so you can plan your attack and take opportunities like dueling a solo flanker to gain advantages in a fight to win games. The idea behind setting up is that Wrecking Ball needs to have the surprise factor in order to dump all of his cooldowns before they can react. Otherwise, a Wrecking Ball player that fireballs directly into the enemy, in other words, runs it down main, will be thoroughly punished. The best setup spots are ones that are on high ground to get a pile drive and is out of line of sight of where the enemy is facing, so behind on the flank or adjacent as they walk past the choke. So naturally, Ball is better at defense because he can set up before the fight starts, but on offense, you have to be a little more creative. I have a rollout video specifically for this reason to give you some ideas, but essentially find an uncontested route that will allow you to set up so that you can engage without the enemy knowing what hit them. This is time sensitive because a slow setup means your team has to wait before they start fighting or risk losing while down 6v5 theoretically. If you happen to set up before your team is ready to push, that's good. Look for their outlines, and when you see them move through a choke or are rotating, that's when you have to strike because likely the primary focus is on your 5 grouped teammates and on the Hammond rolling around in the backline. Another thing to consider when you are pressured trying to set up, commit to the setup. What occasionally happens is a tracer will chase you to the ends of the map, sometimes into spawn, and try and kill you. Knowing different routes to cut sight lines to limit poke damage and specifically med packs, even the minis, will help you live this interaction. What you're hoping is that they'll eventually screw off, and if they don't, you gotta tell your team what's going on, which can be crucial if 2 enemies are chasing you. In the meantime, loop around to do a long roundabout way of setting up to engage, and use your grapple and exposed areas to minimize some of that poke damage. The reason I say commit to your setup is because it applies pressure to the opponent. The fear that a hamster can roll through and disrupt their entire setup at any time is quite frankly scary. So yeah, just remember this subtle detail because it will happen sometime. When it comes to engaging, there are 3 different tactics. I've explained this in my how to disrupt as Ball video, but here I'm going to try and explain it differently with the 3 Ds: dive, duel, and disrupt. So dive. This is your hard engagement where you slam onto a group of enemies with the goal to deal massive damage and have your team follow up on your pile drive. And if nothing happens, you're farming minefield, and then you repeat the steps and go again. It is crucial that you have adaptive shields when you dive, otherwise you'll probably just die from stuns. For dueling, just as it sounds, anytime there's someone going on the flank or in a power position on high ground, it's your job to deal with them. If it's just one squishy, you should be able to outduel almost every hero, especially if you initiate the duel, which is important to eliminate someone like McCree, who can be a pain to deal with if he sees you coming. Even if you don't get the kill, you likely drew the attention of the supports and other teammates, which is what you're supposed to do as Ball. If you notice an enemy firing shots on the high ground once a fight has started, or basically anytime, this is your highest priority, and it's just because your kit is designed to contest players that normally other heroes cannot without risking their life. And when someone like Roadhog or Sigma, and not to mention a mercy pocketed insert hero here, like Kree for instance, are on high ground, your best option is to boot them off because they can hurt and you want high ground for yourself. The last D is disruption. It's the safest play to make and is usually done to take space or cause chaos. There's really nothing much more I can say besides calling out to your team what your intent is when you go for a boop or slam onto someone. But yeah, that's it. Now for the special cases. The number 1 tip is to please conserve your health. Cover first and foremost should be something you consider even if you don't play Hammond, but the reason being is that his niche revolves around a constant pressure, and how can he do that if he's dead on the next engage? So if you go in even with shields, but you're 300 HP, that could be the difference in you getting blown up or living to tell the tale. This is especially important when trying to duel, to look at your health, and if it starts to get low, you run away, grab some megas, return to the fight in no time. Grabbing health packs will be a major part in Ball's playstyle because it helps take off the pressure of your supports, it heals you faster, no other support can heal you 250 HP in 1 second. I mean, in between fights, run to your supports and let them get all charge. My other tip is for when you're stalling. How you win Overwatch games can sometimes come down to the amount of time a team has. So feeding to stall the objective for another 10 seconds in these specific situations is really good. Now, you've got to decide if it is the best time to stall or if there's something better you can do, like poking for minefield. If you have it, don't worry about it. Or staying alive to wait for your team to regroup for a better shot at winning the fight and potentially holding the point. We're going to look at heroes Ball can work well with or not through this little tier list, starting off with tanks. Sig, he's just got a lot of survivability, peel potential with his shield. He's kind of got he can do everything type kit, and what that really enables him to do is protect his team while Ball does Ball things. Because Ball, he's an offensive-oriented hero, and he can't really peel for his teammates like Sigma can, so it's always a great pick for for Ball and Sigma to be the duo. For Winston, he's also a perfect fit because he brings the offensive potential in dive, and unlike D.Va to help Winston get in with the defense matrix, Ball kind of does the same thing where he takes a brunt of all the enemy cooldowns by going in first, then Winston leaps and uses his Tesla gun to cleave all the enemies after Ball slams. I feel like too, he holds a lot more, like he holds space a lot better than Sigma. Sigma takes off angles really well and can maintain himself, but in terms of him leading the way, being the main tank, he's not so great at that. While Winston, I mean, in dive you're trying to burst a target down, but if you can't do that, then you're just slowly taking space until you get your prime opportunity to dive, and Winston can do that way more effectively by taking the space. Speaking of D.Va, she does have less offensive potential as Winston, but on the other hand, she does have the defensive aspect that Winston doesn't. The two uses of Defense Matrix in that case is to primarily peel for her teammates, which is something, like I said, Ball can't do effectively. But at the same time, if Ball were to go in, he could use that little bit of DM to help him get in and not take so much damage. That way he can stay in the fight a little bit longer. All in all, great peel, okay dive. Zarya works pretty well as well, just by bubbling Ball as he goes in. That way Ball doesn't take as much CC punishment, and he can, you know, absorb all of that CC, get in cleanly, and get out. What it also does is give Zarya some energy, which is always something that she wants. Not only that, Zarya has a great combo with Grav and Mines. Simply use Grav, and then Ball uses his Mines, wait for them to activate, and then there's no escape for them, so they're kind of just trapped right in the middle of the whole cluster. Hog, same thing as Zarya, except what you're looking for in a hero is to get value while also staying alive, and Hog does that. Besides the niche combo with Slam Hook, where it kind of works like pre-Pacharissa Halt, where you just suck the enemies over the shield. That's kind of what his slam is supposed to do, knocks people up over the shield. Hog can get a free hook off, and it's pretty easy to land since they're slowed from the knock-up effect. But other than that, he's just a more threatening frontline, saving that hook, and that's kind of his defense pretty much. The only good thing about Orisa and Ball is the Halt, which, you know, it sucks enemies together. Ball can get good slams off. She has an unreliable shields just as a duo, is not super great for her team. And then besides that, her Fortify is her self-protection, so it doesn't help her team, and that's not really what Ball wants to work with. For Rein, Ball can't support him, and Rein is forced to play the shield most of the time because of that. Rein wants to be the carry hero, but he can't do that without getting a lot of resources. That's why Zarya works really well with Reinhardt. But Ball can't do that, and for the most part, Ball can't even combo with him. The S tier for DPS all has something in common. Great follow-up. Tracer's at the top because she can group up with Ball, stick to Ball, and kill any hero at will. Usually Ball can't go on a pocketed Ashe just because Ashe can survive that whole interaction. 2v1's not really great, but if you have Tracer and Ball, you can just out-damage Mercy's heal beam and, you know, free kill. Echo just being a great hero in general, but notably the focus beam after Ball slams, because Ball slam does 100 burst damage. It's not necessarily their combo potential, but just Echo is a great hero and is also dive, so yeah. Widow and Ashe are pretty similar. Widow has a follow-up potential headshot. It's pretty easy shots with the knock-up, because remember it has a slow effect. And Ball can help win the Widow 1v1, which takes a lot of pressure off Widow. And then Ashe, she's got the Dynamite follow-up, which is super huge when Ball slams. Because I always think Ball is probably now the best setup hero in the game. Since he's been meta, people have kind of understood his potential with the knock-up. So that's something you gotta take advantage of in your ranked games. Sombra plays exactly like Tracer, and actually I should honestly put her in S tier because of that. The thing, I think the reason why I put her lower is that she's more of an EMP bot, so she's not playing with Ball. But what I think I should have considered is if Sombra does play like Tracer, it's a very deadly combo because Ball can roll up by himself and people don't even know Sombra's invis, hack the enemy, and then just get that free kill. So yeah, I think I should have put her on S tier. Kree, he's got survivability, good follow-up damage, so good. Soldier, simply a long-range tracer, less evasion, but same idea. Hanzo, I really quite like, and I've started playing him in my ranked games. He used to be my carry at one point before I started learning Ball, but anyways, what I wanted to get at is that his storm arrows are really deadly. What makes it so strong is that it can just chuck out so many arrows, so much damage within like half a second. Plus, you've got the one-shot potential. That's always something that you have to look out for. Although, even if you hit the 125 body shot plus slam, if you do quick math, that's 225. That's really deadly, and so that can kill if in a perfect vacuum. So there's no break inspire or anything like that. You can kill a Kree or Sim with 225 HP. Genji is just a lesser form of Echo, and in terms of ult comboing type synergy, Ball can bait cooldowns before Genji goes for his blade. And Doom, now the only knock on Doom and Ball is just for this core interaction, and it's to be the disruptor. He boops people away, that's how his whole kit functions, to take space, yada yada yada. That messes up with Doom's whole kit, but at the beginning of the fight, what is Doom and Ball's strongest point is their initial dive. Just like how Ball would go in first for Winston, Ball wants to go in first for Doom, because if Ball takes all the brunt, sometimes he'll probably take all the CC abilities, the stuns, whatnot. Doom falls up, get that pick. Oh, that's beauty. So if you notice, I made a new category that are specialists. No actual synergy, but in the overall team comp, they're not so bad. Like Pharah, no actual synergy, but I like the idea of Ball disrupting the hit scans, virtually giving free space to Pharah to roam around, do Pharah things. Like, even in Dive, if you notice, Chengdu Hunters with, you know, they're not the greatest team in Owl, but with relative success, with Jinmu on the Pharah and Among on the Wrecking Ball, they had some decent success with that comp. And I think just the idea of your dive on the ground and his super mobile fast heroes, and then the double threat from Pharah, Pharmacy. It's just, I think that is just peak Overwatch in my opinion. And Junk is this awkwardly synergistic hero that can dive. He has large burst damage, but I think just the chaotic nature of his playstyle works somewhat in every comp. That could just be me too. And for C tier, you'll notice a commonality between these guys, and that is just they're very survivable. Like Torb with his overload, he gets 100, or is it 150? Either way, 100 or 150 extra armor HP points. That just makes him super hard to dive, and with his turret doing most of the work, you know, you just got that constant damage rolling in. Mei again has survivability, but has multiple ways to assist your team with wall and being a close range threat to thwart off all the brawl tank heroes, which Ball has some troubles dealing with. And Reaper, same as before, survivable, but I think what really lacks in him is his follow-up. Like, the only thing that he has, and I honestly think it's underrated how much DPS he can do with the shotguns, but all he can really do is just put lots of pressure on the tanks, and I guess in the relationship where if Ball's harassing, let's say, an Ana in the backline, the Ana's not giving the resources to the Reinhardt, and so your Reaper that is just shooting the Reinhardt slowly dwindles their resources, and then you can win the fight by attrition. But other than that, that's kind of where it ends. The thing about Ball in Sim is that Sim is forced to play a specific style, because what makes Sim strong is that she needs a lot of protection, and so you need a Reinhardt shield or a Sigma Orisa. You just need 2 shields, and with only one, she doesn't have the same amount of protection. The Reinhardt can't protect or hold his shield up for very long, so the Sim is just forced to kind of just spam her secondary fire and not charge up her beam, which is when she's the most powerful, just putting so much pressure on the enemy team just by how much DPS she can do. Bastion, Ball can't shield Bastion, nor combo with Bastion, and that's kind of what he needs to succeed. I guess the only thing is if Ball boops tanks out from like cover, then Bastion shreds shields or something like that, but yeah. Ana, the best support for Ball for sure, and the reason being is not only because she has personal survivability, she's got Nade for herself, she's got Sleep Dart, but the real power comes from Nano. It's one of the better Nano targets in the game because slams deal 150 damage, that's insane, and Fireball deals 75. So if you do the scoop and poop strat, that's just asking for free kills. But the other reason is the 50% damage reduction, which makes Ball virtually unkillable when recontesting. And then for Brig being Brig, she can do so much. She can peel with med packs, unintentionally peel with Inspire, is very self-sustainable as it is, and is a reliable healer. With Bap, it's just he's got great preservation and generally a good support in this current stage of the game. Can't really complain when he's one of my healers. I just have to grab med packs a little more often. Mercy, a lesser version of Brig, good evasion and reliable healer. Exactly what Ball wants. Doesn't heal Ball, but in terms of what she adds to the team, it helps Ball's playstyle. Lucio, okay dive hero, you know, used to be part of the OG dive, and in theory can dive with you, but not recommended. He doesn't have as much damage as a Tracer or Sombra or any other hero, and with his speed boost to help boost people away from certain parts of the map so they can flank, regroup, go back in. You know, it's just he's not as reliable as the other healers, but with his potential, he's probably just as reliable. So Zen for me, in terms of Ball and Zen, Ball can't peel Zen, and Zen is like the most glass cannon hero in the game. So in terms of that type of synergy, they do not work together. That being said, if he has a pocket support like Brig, Mercy, as being the best to pocket him, his Discord is just too good. Ball can just follow up on the Discord with a slam, 30% damage amp. Actually, I think it's 25 with the new patch. I think in general, it's safe to say that Moira is the worst healer. She doesn't have range, unlike the other healers. She doesn't have as much burst as the other healers. She runs out of healing. Just like in general, she sucks. Yeah, that's it. For tank counters, we have Hog as the number one. He can hook you into the enemy team, and despite him not being able to one-shot you, if he brings you in the enemy team, most cases that's never good. D.Va, when you go in for those slams, she pretty much stops your follow-up entirely. In a 1v1 scenario, her shotguns deal a lot at close range, and you might think that you can out-poke her, and while that's true, she's also one of the heroes with boosters that can close in the gap and actually chase you pretty well. Zarya, much like D.Va, but less so. She has slight range over D.Va, but that's neither here nor there. But likely, Ball can boop her into positions where she would rather not, unlike D.Va or Hog, who have a better escapability because her bubble, although it's 200 HP, and if an entire team focuses that bursts like in a snap. And Ryan going off with Rush. Rush is a playstyle that Ball can't effectively counter because Ryan itself, with his steadfast, he doesn't take a lot of CC displacement from Ball's boops. The only thing you can do against a Reinhardt is to slow him down, or you go onto the supports and trying to distract him so that Reinhardt doesn't have as much healing resources, and that's kind of how you take him out. Sig, like I mentioned, just great survivability, good protection. Anything Ball can throw at him, he can kind of just shrug it off. You just have to watch out for Rock or Flux. Rock because, you know, stuns. The Ball v Ball matchup, it's very neutral. What you're looking to do against another Ball is to ignore him and dive yourself, get the most amount of value out of your cooldowns, or counter dive. So if the Ball goes on to your supports, quickly speed over there, boop him out, forcing him off back into his team, or maybe you're just delaying his progress, so he has to grab a med pack. Another important interaction between Ball v Ball is if the enemy Ball uses minefield and you're quick enough, you can fireball into those mines, destroy them before they activate, and clear a whole lane for your team, which kind of negates his entire ultimate, which is huge. Winston, if you can boop him out of his shield, your team should be able to kill him. Plain and simple. Ball is naturally good at disrupting bunker, and with Orisa forced to deploy her shield at a fixed spot, it's just a matter of booping her into her team, and if she uses Fortify, you retreat, then you go right back in to try and boop her into your team, try and kill her, and then from there, your team should be able to snowball. For DPS counters for S tier, we have Sombra and Bastion, and it should be very simple to understand why they're the S tier. And the reason why Bastion is up here is because he's not only a tank buster, Ball can boop those guys, but when Bastion is in his turret form, Ball can't do much. Like, he can't displace him into LOS of his team. Bastion is fixed in that position. So what you're trying to do as a Ball player to try and beat a Bastion comp is to basically go for these hit and run engages. You want to play slippery. Like, even Minefield doesn't do too much because likely 2 mines will get onto him, but he has a damage resistance when he's in turret form, his Ironclad. So Bastion is just super tanky against what Ball does. So Ball is just purely relying on his team to do something. For Sombra, just having the hack alone, because Ball is an ability-based hero, if he gets hacked, he can't really do too much. And with your playstyle too, where you want to be close range for your engages, Sombra can just stay AFK, holding her hand out, waiting to hack you. And so before you can even slam, she can hack you, and yeah, the rest is history. Tracer is one of the best heroes to counter Ball, and that's because she's one of the only heroes that can keep up with Ball. You can't 1v1 her either because she's got recall, she's very evasive. You don't deal a lot of burst damage. The only thing you can reliably do is fireball into her, but even then she can like blink around it. Kree has always been a really good pick to counter Ball even before his 25 HP buff, but now that he has that, it kind of made 1v1ing a Kree almost impossible unless you get the jump on him. Torbjorn's up here not because of what he can do, but what his turret can do. Ball can kill that turret, but the thing is that he will take about 100 to 200 damage no matter what, so it's never the greatest thing for Ball to do it. Ideally, you want long range or projectile, which have no fall off damage, to try and take out that turret. For the most part, Ball doesn't want to deal with it, but if Ball's the only one to deal with it, he should take out that turret because that will chunk you out over the course of a fight. And then Torb himself, he's got a lot of survivability. If you get a little too close when he's using his overload, his shotgun can deal a whole bunch, and just the increased rate of fire. If he hits enough Cheetos, he will also do a lot of damage as well. Junkrat is on A tier for his trap, and with his trap, if he places it even in the most random places, I've never been so tilted from a Junkrat just because of how he places traps. He, like, so many times a Junkrat will just place it in some random place on a point, and I will just walk into it. Not because I don't like ignore it or something like that, but it's in such a random place that I don't look for it. And then his mines alone just deal so much damage, so once that happens, it's usually GG. You might be surprised to see Mei and Reaper down here, but the reason being is that they're short range. And one secret to Mei and how to escape her freeze is kind of dependent on what the Mei does. If the Mei just holds her freeze ray, she will freeze you 2 times, and even if you try and grapple out of there, you'll be frozen that second time, no matter what. Reaper, same thing, close range, that's where he's effective. If you're trying to set up and he's trying to check out your flank, you kind of want to keep your distance, run away from him. You can poke, do whatever you want to him from long range, and if he does try to contest you on a high ground by like teleporting, boop him off of that high ground. That's all you can really do. If you don't, you want to run away immediately. You don't want to stick around and try and shoot him. He can farm up his Death Blossom, which is never good for you and your team because that's a pretty wicked ult. Doomfist is up here mainly because of his CC abilities. All of his crowd control, his abilities can either stun him or just totally mess up his movement. Hanzo is just annoying to face. You should be able to win that 1v1, but because he's got storm arrows, he can burst you pretty quickly, take down all of your adaptive shields. Not to mention he's got leap, but not only that, Hanzo does have his wall climb, so if he wants to run away and try and just evade Echo, being a natural tank buster, can also poke you from long range with her non-fall off shots. Echo beam, really deadly, so this is crucial when I say don't go for engages when you're below 300 HP. That's like including Echo. So if there's an Echo on your team and you notice you're under 300 HP and you're thinking about engaging, don't do it. Sim with her turrets are the most annoying thing in the game, I would say personally. If you're a fast hero and you're facing against a Sim, her turrets with the 30% slowness effect that they give, why does that happen? I hate it. It's the worst feeling in the game when it feels like inevitable death, or it's just slow and painful. I hate it so much. I feel like Pharah is just a really good pick against Ball, and it's not because she does a lot to you besides Barrage. Barrage just evaporates you. If she wants to, if she just doesn't like you, she'll just barrage onto you. But the reason why she's on B tier is that with a Mercy pocket, you can't do too much to her. The only thing you can do is poke out the Mercy to an extent, but with your fall off range, you don't really do too much. So she can do something to you, but you can't really do much to her. For neutral, Soldier versus Ball, and the reason why it's neutral, like from a long range, Soldier for sure has the advantage, but from close range, Ball has the advantage. But in general, like even if they have those slight advantages, it's only slight, and they don't really do too much to you. The thing is that you want to force the heal zone biotic field from Soldier before you do anything crazy. You don't want to full commit onto him. You just want to trick him. You want to bait out that ability. Then you can go on him again. So he's just a little tricky to kill, but he also doesn't really do too much to you. Ash, same thing. I feel that she's worse than Soldier because her coach gun is not as super impactful as people may think. So with Ball, you're trying to bait out cooldowns for a lot of these heroes. And so if you can bait out that cooldown, then she's just susceptible to dive. The only thing you got to worry about is that she does have a decent amount of damage that she can throw at you with her dynamite, with her hip fire even. So just keep that in mind. Genji, just an annoying hero to play against. He's got that deflect, so if you try and punish him by booping him somewhere, he can deflect and be like, whoa, oh, I was in the wrong place, and then just 180 dash out. At close range in the duel, it's a 50-50, I would say. If Genji doesn't have any abilities, Ball wins at 100% of the time. And lastly, Widow, Ball is trying to engage her all the time. You don't want to give her any space to click some heads and win fights that way, so you want to always pressure her. That way she can't get easy shots. If she does, she's just good, so nothing you can do about that. And ideally what you're trying to do against a Widow is to engage at her without using her movement abilities. That way, once you force her out, she'll grapple, then you use your own grapple to reach where she is, and she has no more escape ability for 12 seconds. The best counters of all, I think it's no surprise Brig is up there. Brig just disables any type of dive. Just having the peel of any support that would want. Like Inspire, if she just exists, the reason why people say if Brig exists, the game plays for herself. Inspire, if she flails, hits an enemy, gets Inspire, Ball can't duel that person as easily. Like, because of that extra healing, Ball has to include that much more damage, and if Ball misses on any of those, then Ball has to disengage from that fight. Obviously a Ball can't duel Brig because of that fact, so there's no point in even trying to fight her unless she's low, in which case you need your team to help follow up because she can prog Inspire. Hold her shield up, wait for herself to regen a little more health, and then at that point she can just outduel you. Moving on, we have Ana, and Ana could be S tier if that Ana can hit 6 sleep darts. Like, I know Ball has a large hitbox, but honestly, a good Ball player is trying to force out the sleep dart before he even goes for an engage. You can go for the slam if your team is available, but the risk that you take is that the Ana will sleep you, and then that Roadhog on the enemy team would give you that burst combo. Even a Reinhardt pin, you know, something like that where the team has 5 seconds to group up and then burst you down. Bap is similar to Ana in which he's just super defensive. He's got a lot of survivability tools. His moon boots are actually super annoying, and drone just being the drone, you know, immortality. It's always nice to have. And then for Mercy, it's kind of a tricky one. It's dependent on the Mercy player. In my mind, I'm thinking of this Mercy player being at least Masters or GM, and at that range, she can evade so well. She has those sneaky reses where she'll res, but will fall down from like, let's say Dorado Bridge, and how can you boop to stop the res? You can't. So a good Mercy player is what I'm basing this off of, but if Ball can deny reses quite frequently in a match, you likely have already won the game because of that. Zen's a tricky one because it depends on his support duo, whether or not that's Brig, Mercy, Bap, Ana to an extent, that just pocket him and keep him alive, because his Discord is what will kill you. So that's why I put him in B tier. He can punish. The thing is that it depends on his support duo. Moira could be D tier. It's a non-threat, but the thing is that you can't, if Moira has her fade and her orb at the ready, you can't kill her, so that's why I put her in neutral. And Lucio, much the same. He's just super evasive. He doesn't do a whole lot of damage. You boop him, he boops you. You know, tit for tat. That's kind of how those two heroes go. An ideal map for Ball has multiple flank routes, high grounds because that's kind of how Ball dives and takes space effectively, lots of megas, and as a bonus, good stall potential and environmental kill potential. And that's kind of how I graded these maps. Right off the bat, Oasis, Busan, and Ilios checked 4 of the boxes. Oasis is by far the best map, and any Ball player will say Oasis is the best map. For instance, University, it's got that one platform on the right, and I find low ranks just waltz on there, so if you're a little bit patient, you can boop someone off. On every map, it's got 2 or more megas, which is always a positive. And then of course there's high grounds on each of those maps that you can control and give that space to your teammates to take advantage of. Busan, Busan would be the #1 pick. It would be the best map. The only thing I have against it is its megas. It's only got 1 mega on Mecha Base, and then on Downtown it's only got 1 mega again. The only one that is excluded from this is Sanctuary, and that's not his best map. Downtown is, and then Mecha Base is a close second. And then Sanctuary is good, but it's not great. The only thing that makes it okay is just the fact that he has megas that he can retreat to and grab. But except for that one complaint, Busan has a lot of the pros that Oasis does, so that's why it's on the S tier. And Ilios is the last on the S tier because it's not as great as the other maps, but at least the megas add to it. The only bad map is Well, and even then, what really drives that one is just the environmental kill potential that you can have and just instantly win fights because of that. Could put it in A tier, but I like it in S tier in my opinion. A tier, Lijiang Tower. This one for a lot of people could be S tier. The one thing I get from Lijiang is, unlike the other maps, it's got like great map design except for Control Center. Gardens is a little bit iffy, though you do have access to all of the 3 megas pretty like accessible. The thing I don't like about it is that the boops, I feel like people understand how Ball works on that map now, and so in my opinion it's a little bit solved. But if you weren't convinced, my biggest knock onto Lijiang is control center that is indoors and is close quarters, and when the fight breaks out in the white room, all you can do is slam and run away. So you're not contesting any major high ground. you don't have all the extra things that make ball super powerful on some of those maps. And next is Gibraltar. The reason why it's here is because it's only good for 2 points, and the third point on Gibraltar is really hard for ball to attack from. But the first 2 points, you can carry that like easily. People like to set up in the same spots, and you can just go in for an engage, and there's like multiple ways of engaging there. So you can disrupt so many defenses, but on defense too, you've got so many escape routes and flank routes that you can take advantage of high ground. It's a really great map. The only thing is the third point, and that's why it's at A tier. Nepal gets its credit from being a Koth map. It's overall just a good map for ball in general. The thing is that map design is part of this, and village is not a great one, just because the point being in enclosed area makes it hard for him to get in if it's like a rush comp stacked inside. So a sim being in there, a May being in there, it just makes it really hard for ball to do anything. So like control center, all he has to do is go in, slam, and then try and run away. Otherwise, if he stays a little too long, he'll get killed. Hollywood, much like Gibraltar, has lots of high ground. The thing is that attacking first is a little bit harder than Gibraltar. You don't have as many flank routes, you don't have as many grapple angles. But on second point, you dominate that one. Third point, you can carry none of it. That one is super hard to do anything. The flank routes kind of fall flat, and so you're left with going on the stairs and slamming when you get past that one choke, the second choke. Still a great map overall because you still have options. It's just that it's limited as you progress. Eichenwald, my personal favorite map, so there might be some bias here, but this for me could be S tier worthy. First point, every flank can be deadly, and like all you have to do is do the classic scoop and poop, hide behind the car, and you'll take the team fight most of the time. Defense gets a little wonky because holding the chunk is very risky with the possibility of being chain CC'd. So likely you'll be forced to play slippery, which means being the most annoying hero like you're supposed to be. Now for the streets phase. Second point is goated. Environmentals, grapple angles, booping players off high ground in general. Flanks can easily rotate all over the map too, and there's so many pros that is legitimately one of the best points for ball in all of Overwatch. There's one drawback though, and that's third point castle. Here are the two scenarios. You snowball after second point, then full cap, or you get stuck somewhere along the way, then they just poke at you from the bridge. You might make one decent push for the full cap, but response and the defender's advantage get the better of you, so the best option is to switch. Mbani is just a great dive map in general. On offense, it gets a little tricky. Like, on first point, really great, and with a little bit of an asterisk, because if your team keeps running down that one corridor, left side, and there's a Junkrat spamming it, people are like, switch off ball, it's not working. But, I mean, it's kind of on your team, you can't really do too much there. Second point, you lose some options because it gets a little more open. You can be easily poked out. And then third point, it's like you have one option, or you have two options. You can run it down main, which is not usually the best, or go around that backside, and that's pretty much it. And what can you do? You can just boop and slam, but there's no high grounds you can really control, so it falls flat on third point. What I will give props to, and I probably should have said this for the other maps, is defense on Numbani is spectacular. First point is probably the weakest point for ball, and that's still top tier. He's on high ground, he gets free slams, he can contest multiple high grounds, he can flank, get boops, and push people out of line of sight, just naturally how people position there. Just in general, like, Numbani's a great map, but on offense, it kind of just dwindles a little bit, so that's my one knock on it. Junkertown, much like the other escort maps, or I guess Hollywood is hybrid, but with Junkertown, just on the second and third point, is super good for ball. He can carry some of those fights. Third point kind of falls flat, but you can still contribute a lot to that, to those team fights. Second point, you can carry that. And first point is the only tricky one, and that's because you can carry the first half of it by disrupting all their defense, but once they fall back, then you can't do very much because there's no more grapple angles, and it's a very open map for snipers to just outpoke you. Route 66. Now this is a funky one for me because in terms of what it does for ball, it's a great map. The thing is about it, why I feel funky about it is because it's a fair map, and what I mean by that is that there are positions both the offense and defense can have that are similar in power. Like both teams can take that high ground, and if we're talking about a team holding gas station like they would normally do, and the attackers going up the left side train, that like little ramp, and taking that high ground, because of that, the extra variable that there really is no defender's advantage for both sides. If the team wants to take that route, see what I did there? But yeah, I don't know, it's just a weird map in terms of how it's designed. Not that it's bad or anything. It has multiple megas, flank routes, so that's why it's still A tier. Just a little weird with how team positioning works and how it could dictate some of these matches, in my mind at least. First on Blizzworld is a solid point for ball. You can take both high grounds with relative ease, very good flank routes, and angles to attack from. Second point is good too if the enemy team doesn't stack on the H ground. Got to be careful though, because it's an open map for snipers and they can deal a bunch of damage if you stay in the open for too long. So use the flanks you've got to boot them off, because that area of the map has access to the entire second point, and you really want to make sure that your team has access to it and not the enemy. Third point gets stagnant, and when you're on defense there, once you get past the first corner, it's pretty much GG. Anubis, I'll say this right off the bat. Defense on ball is atrocious on both capture points. First, you can try and disrupt the enemy team entering either of the two rooms, but not enough to hold at the choke, so you've kind of got to give up space to have a better position. Second, on the other hand, gives you a little more of a chance because there are better holds for ball. But on the flip side, going to attack is excellent. Multiple ways to get behind the enemy defenses and disrupt their setup. Easily contest high ground, and for the most part, you are causing so much disruption that your team should follow up if they're close and take the objective. Last point, not as great for flank angles. You'll notice that the last points on maps become the edge of the map, and trying to get behind the enemy is non-existent at that point sometimes. Dorado, an okay map all in all, has flank angles, but just how the map is designed, to me, booping enemies normally on maps would occasionally get kills if they were flung towards their team, but not on Dorado, and it won't likely happen because all the power positions, so high grounds, are near the health packs or close to retreats where their team can easily peel for them. It's still worth doing though, booping people off high ground, but the value potential is less in my opinion. Megas become an issue because they're so spread across the map, and the map is quite huge, so you'll be wasting time grabbing them. And then defense after first point is unreliable, no environmentals either, so like I said, a decent map all around. Volskaya is almost identical to Anubis. The thing I found most annoying about playing Volskaya is that the boops only clear high ground, like Dorado actually, because there's a lot of ways that the enemy can retreat safely in Mega Room or Hut, which has the mini pack too. And there's also a lot of high grounds, so I find that I spend a lot of time constantly clearing them and not engaging the entire grouped enemies as often. Your team may have trouble getting past the initial choke without a shield, and you're hoping that your team goes inside on either the left or right rooms to limit their poke that they take and push from there. Second point is the same thing, kind of relying on your team to get a pick, or you forcing positioning before you full commit. That's what you get, I guess, for playing 2CP. Lots of things you need to check off before you go in. And then on defense, first point, you have to give some space because there are no good defensive holds past the choke. Second point is all about slowing down the enemy and cycling ults to hold the objective. And don't underrate ball too if you're like the last one alive, to give some ticks, right? So you want to buy some time so your team can regroup. And if you feel like you have a chance to hold it or at least force out some ultimates, ball actually can delay for quite a while on first and second point Volskaya. Rialto. I really like Rialto, but because it can be Sniper Alley on second, and then third will be when you're forced to switch heroes. My overall grade of the map is low because of that. First point, you can take all the space you want and disrupt every defense. Hanamura. This map is alright for you, got all the requirements for you to get value, but what's actually The issue with this map is that it's dependent on your team. If they can't get past point A choke, it's going to be a rough ride. Because trying to boot the enemies into your team past the choke onto your side, it's usually not the greatest option, because not only will you lose your flank positioning if it doesn't succeed, but likely they have abilities to bail themselves like Kinetic Grasp or Zarya Bubble. So it's a 50-50 risk you're willing to take, and then you lose positioning, so you waste time. The best thing you can do when your team can't get past the choke is to disrupt their backline, then call your team to go in. Second point for ball is realistically only doable if you have Minefield, especially when you snowball past the first point. You can't take away their positioning, and the whole point is open, so trying to do so will eventually poke you out. Defense is pretty good, just make sure to not slam onto the enemy side of the choke and you'll be fine for first. And the last point, you can be a little more creative, understand what the enemy is trying to rotate to. Usually they're going to go onto the high ground left side if you're from defender's point of view. Then look to get the most value from slam to farm Minefield, which is kind of the only way you can carry second by yourself. King's Row, besides it being a Ryan Zard dominant map, which ball's not good into, map design itself is still close quarters with not much room to give a variety of grapple angles. I feel it's totally on your team to capitalize on your disruption, since it's a map that you really want to get in and get out with Kings, being such a close quarters map with the straight and narrow streets. Third point, you can't do very much besides control the first high ground on attack. But you will have to spend grapple, and when facing an Ashe, for instance, she can boop you off, and then you have to wait again another 4 seconds before you can even go up there. So it's just a lot of wasted time, and it's a struggle. Defense on Kings is serviceable on first, but after that, if the enemy starts snowballing, it's hard for ball to stop it. Luckily, third point has one of the most obnoxious spawn rooms for the defenders, so you always have that potential to stall till overtime or potentially hold it near the end. Your only other good defensive setup is the initial arch on Streets phase once the enemy takes point A, and that's it. And Havana. It's got long sight lines, mostly open space. People will poke you out to death, and because of that, the flanks, they don't help you because the enemies can see you coming from a mile when you go for these flanks. You might think second point is better because it's close quarters, but it's not. Defense is impossible. You have to give up space on all 3 points. Defensive positions are limited, and engaging is pretty tough because most of the positions enemies take are close to the supports and are out of line of sight of your team, so no follow-up. Your role then becomes slamming to farm up Minefield and hopefully get some follow-up, or stall the objective and pray you get enough time on your attack to move the payload the extra inches. You immediately switch if the enemy has more than 3 stuns because going for these big slams is too risky. Even in plat, it's pretty tough to carry. It will always be a sniper map, and you can't single-handedly determine fights without a perfect use of your Minefield. And that's the only way you can win solo, is with your Minefield. Well, that's all I have for you today. Please let me know of any questions you have. I'll try my best to give some pointers so you can absolutely fireball games. But anyways, hope you all enjoyed. If you really did like it, make sure to subscribe. Until then, I'll see you when I see you. Peace.